paramount in being able to achieve anything. It's not what you know, it's what you don't know that you don't know that actually helps you to build your organization. And as leaders, you have a duty. You have a duty of care of the people underneath you. And I want to talk about that this morning. And I want you to consider, as I talk about that, out of everybody in the world that is leading people, why you, as an individual, as you sit there in that seat, why you? And as I talk about this morning, you'll get an understanding in terms of the science of how life works. But I believe that you'll get a deep spiritual understanding as well as to why you're chosen to do what it is that you do. Because if we look at the definition of a saint, the definition of a saint is any human being that has a following. And if you're starting to build a following, then you are obligated as a human being to look inside of yourself, to emanate and shine, to make sure that as you emanate and shine, you give other people permission to do the same. You can't fake this because it's not sustainable. Leadership is not fakeable because it's not sustainable. And leadership is something that requires a very inner clarity of who you are, what you bring to the table. And the clearer you are about the person that you are, the clearer you are about the qualities and attributes that you bring to the table, the more abundant your life becomes. And one of the things you'll notice about the leaders in your room is, first off, they're people that we look up to. And when we look up to people, we call them superstars because they're starlight. And they bring something from above into our lives. And they allow us to emanate and shine. And I think that's one of the key messages here that I want you guys to get this morning. I want you to get the importance of emanating and shining, the importance of the influence that you have in people's lives, and to have the respect for those people, but that respect has to start at home.
Yeah, so in you having an obligation to the team, as Mitch said, because you're leaders, the obligation to the team can't occur unless you understand who you are. When you understand who charity starts at home. If you don't understand health, you are not going to be able to discuss health. If you don't understand self-worth, you're not going to be able to discuss self-worth. So everything that you do with everybody else is just your way of actually working with yourself. So when you work with yourself and when you go within, then because that transformation that you're looking in them and that you're looking to have in their lives and you're looking for them to achieve inside of themselves, the only way that transformation can occur for them is if they go inside. If they go inside and look at what's happening for them, it's the same with you. With you, you have to go inside. Transformation happens from within, not from without. So in order to be the greatest leader and in order to be the most effective you can be as a team leader, you have to go within first. It all starts with you.
So Amelia hit on a point there, and we're always saying to our people that transformation is an inside job. So it's a great misconception that you can be of service to others without being of service to yourself. Because your objective is that if you take a child and you look at a baby, I have 3 beautiful young children. I have an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and I have a 2-year-old. And one of the things that became very self-evident to me is that as my children were growing, they were doing what I do, not what I say. This is very, very, very important to understand. People do what you do, not what you say. You can't squeeze a green thing right. You can't do it. You have to emanate and shine. It has to receive light. It has to receive sun. And in that way, it ripens. So you have to ripen. And as you build your net worth, you're in the business of building your self-worth and your net worth. And as you build your net worth, you can only do that to the degree that you can build your self-worth. And then as you build your self-worth and start to feel worthy, then your team will start to do the same thing. Because one of the biggest things that happens in this organization is that there comes a tipping point with Juice Plus. I've watched it now for 3.5 years. I've seen it I've worked with lots and lots of multi-level marketing businesses. But this, I'll say it again, Juice Plus is the most congruent multi-level marketing business that I've ever seen. It's because its leaders are heavily invested in their human development. there's a tipping point where people put all the effort in and all the effort in and all the effort in and all the effort in, and then suddenly it tips. And when it tips, something fundamentally happens within the leader. And what happens is that the leader at that moment suddenly gets their worth and suddenly gets their value. And as they get their worth and their value, it ripples through the whole organization. Now, I've watched also people build their worth through life and destroy their worth through life, and build their worth and destroy their worth. And as they build, the common thread is that it becomes a habit of getting money and then losing money, and then getting money and then losing money. And then they become addicted to the process of getting it and losing it, as opposed to creating a new addiction, which is to burst through the tipping point of getting it, that's the tipping point, and then losing it. And then getting it, new tipping point, and then losing it. So they just get used to the same life of building and constructing. So when I work with leaders, my objective is, I remember sitting with Celine, and Celine said to me, look, I want to double the size of this business. And I said, to double the size of this business, you have to double the size of your self-worth. If you do that, everything else will happen. Your objective is to understand the position that you hold. You hold a very important position, let alone in Australia, but in the world. And as we had this conversation, and I set her to work, I set Celine to task. And Celine is somebody that does her work. As she did this, it just organically happened. It just organically happened. I think the goal was a year. I think it happened in something like 9 months. And it's the same with you. So the point here is, how do we do this? How do we, if this is the case, you don't want to fake it. Because, you know, there are points and times in your life where you've got money and then you've dispersed of it. You've got it and then you've dispersed of it. Because money is emotion. It's energy in motion. And you don't want to be doing that. You want to start to where you mean to end with people. Meaning that when your leaders get there, they look back and they're proud of you because they can see that you did the work. You showed them the way. So you lead from within. You don't lead from the outer world. You lead from inside of you. People are attracted to you. This is a resonance game you're in. You're in a game of resonance. People are resonating with you. They feel you. You can't fake feeling. They feel you. As you hear me talking right now, you feel me. You feel what I'm talking about. So you feel what Amelia's talking about. So the point is the first thing about building your wealth is, what do you want to feel inside of yourself? What are the feelings you want to feel? If the feelings you feel when you get money, when you start to build your wealth are, I'm not smart enough, I'm not kind enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, and you can't fake that stuff. Your head may say it. Your head may say, yes, you're worthy, and you look in the mirror and tap yourself 50,000 times, and you write letters to yourself every day. You write it on your mirror, and you have these post-it notes everywhere. But that's not sustainable.
There's a difference between telling yourself you're worthy and knowing you deserve.
Yeah, that's an important point that you said there. You need to note that.
There's a difference between telling yourself you're worthy and knowing that you deserve.
Yeah.
So what happens is, and can I just have a raise of hands if you recognize that ebb and flow that Mitch was talking about, that sometimes everything seems to be really going fine and then other times it just dips. Raise your hands if you can, to show me that occurs. Right. Okay. So that happens because our emotions fluctuate. That happens because at some points we feel okay about ourselves, and then at other points we don't feel okay about ourselves. And the reason that we do that at times and not at other times is because we're not clear with who we are as human beings. We think we are what we present to the world, but the truth is that deep down there's another story going on. So what will happen is there'll be times where you just feel like you're on track, you feel like you're on mission, you feel like you're affecting people's lives. And then other times you'll sit there and you'll feel like a fraud, you'll feel like you're a failure, you won't know how to communicate to anyone, it will feel like you don't know how to connect with anybody. What's actually happening there is that they're the times where inside of yourself you are becoming incongruent. And people think that the incongruency is just when you've got the negative self-talk. It's actually not. It's the other way around as well. The times where you're most effective are going to be the times where you're most balanced. And by balanced, I mean that you understand that you are inspirational, and you also understand that there's times where you're not. You understand that there's times where you are good with your wealth, and then there's times where you're not. You have to be able to understand that there are both parts of you playing a role in that. People just want to live in their lives being one part. And they think that in living their lives being one part, this thing that they show to the world, this plus, my health is all on track, my life is just running perfectly. People don't resonate with that because they know it's not the truth.
So get what you said there. The definition of a lie is a minimization or a maximization of what's actually going on. So what we're saying then, so we watch this where people pursue happiness just to only become sadder. People pursue rich just to only feel more poor. So so what do we mean then when we talk about balance? What we mean is that you have to be able to get yourself to a point of equanimity, which is to know and be authentic in knowing that, yes, there are times in my life where I feel lost. There are times in my life where I feel worthless. There are times in my life, because that makes you human. That makes you a real person. You know, we see the phony stuff, the plus, everything is good. That's nonsense. It's not sustainable. It's not reality. People like that are generally very, very transparent. And we know that that's not how it is. So when we're dealing as leaders, you got to know, because you've done it, you've got to know how to be able to teach your people to handle the rejection, how to be able to teach your people how to humble themselves when the paycheck comes in. Because generally what happens when a high paycheck comes in and you're like, woohoo! The next thing that happens is you get a big ass bill that just takes that money straight off you. So it's about being able to balance the ebb and flow of what is coming in, being able to actually maintain a state of equanimity and understand that life is pleasure and pain. It's happy and sad. It's good and bad. It's right and wrong. And your objective is to be able to shine no matter what is going on, and to be able to shine from the inside out.
The amount and the level of finances you have in your life, the amount and level of inspiration that you have in your life, the amount and level of congruency with your team that you have in your life is dependent on your ability to know and love those parts of yourself as a full and whole person.
That means every part of yourself. Understanding every bit of yourself.
Because you may feel like you get there by, you'll notice that some people get to these leadership positions and they just motor ahead and they get there. And then as soon as they get there, everything falls flat. And the reason it falls flat is because they have pushed one side of themselves this whole time. The only way that it can be sustained is if you keep both parts of yourself going. If you understand and you can communicate both parts of yourself and and understand that you have those other elements to you, because otherwise your team will very quickly figure out that you're a fraud. It's not sustainable to be all one way. It's just not possible.
So I think it's important here to start to get you to understand, talk a little bit about what you are. So I'm just going to do this briefly. You're not just a piece of flesh on a planet, and you're a soul operating inside of a human form. You're getting around here in the world, and you're alive. You're alive, but you're governed by what are known as laws. And if the first law that is probably one of the most common laws amongst most people is the law of gravity. Now, we haven't worked out how to defy gravity. We don't know how to defy gravity. And you're in a world that one half of the world is dark right now, the other half is light. So from the macroscopic universe, you're in a world that is dualistic, it's polarized, it has both sides. And so I want you to understand that you can't get rich, guys, collecting coins that only have one side.
That's such an important point.
You'll never get rich in halves. And it's not sustainable. If you go around trying to be plus with everybody, it's not sustainable. So I'll give you an example with a little kid. If my daughter falls over and she comes to me and she's like, oh my God, I it hurt my knee. And I go, come on, honey, it's okay. Everything's good. You're good. Just wipe yourself off bed. Come on, you're great. Just head out into the world. Everything's going to be all right. She'll just keep going, no, but my knee. And she will do that continuously until such a time that I stop. So what does that mean, to stop? It means to stop that when she hurts her knee, I sit her on my lap and I say to her, tell me how you feel, babe. I've hurt myself, Dad. Have you, honey? Okay, no problem. And then I just give her a hug. Now, as soon as I give her a hug and I acknowledge how she's feeling, what does she do? She jumps off the chair and straight back over and starts beating up her sister again. This is what happens. So the first thing you got to understand is acknowledge all of yourself, all of your feelings. You're living in a dualistic reality. You're governed by laws. Now, I'm going to give you a fundamental law that when we're dealing with our top-end guys, but no matter who it is, your top-end NMDs, your 100 clubbers to 400 clubbers. One of the things we say to these guys is, look, one of the laws in life is that it's called the law of limitations. To those people that have certainty, presence, and love in their lives, more is given. To those people that don't, more is taken away. So what that means is, until you learn to handle what you've got in your life, you will never have any more. You'll never have any more. So what does it mean to handle what you've got? Well, you have to understand that there is a dominating thought inside of you. A thought, and you have to deal with the dominating thought. The innermost dominating thought is what creates your outermost dominating reality. Your outermost dominating reality is not creating your innermost dominating thought. It's the other way around. So if your innermost dominating thought is, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not sexy enough, I'm not handsome enough, I'm not businesslike enough, well then if you don't do something about that thought, then I'm sorry, it's just not going to be sustainable. You'll just be like the rest of the statistics, oscillating and tick-tocking, building a team, dropping a team, building a team. But when people deal with their innermost dominating thought, their balance of equanimity allows their growth to be progressive. So they grow progressively because they know how to handle their emotional states. So the point here is that you've got to first know what your innermost dominating thought is. You've got to shift your innermost dominating thought. Your innermost dominating thought must be congruent with your dreams and aspirations, because if you don't balance your dreams and aspirations, if you don't balance your emotions with your dreams and aspirations, you'll sabotage your life.
You probably need to explain that a bit.
So if you have a dream and aspiration to be a multimillionaire within the next 12 months, but emotionally you don't feel congruent with that, well then you will sabotage the journey, because your emotional states are governing your reality, not the other way around. You're a broadcasting system. You're a brain and central nervous system. You're broadcasting into the world, and the world and particles and atoms are tangling with what you're broadcasting to bring about what you're feeling. Get what I said there? You're a broadcasting system. You broadcast into the world. What you broadcast tangles with atoms and particles. And this is not just hocus pocus, smoke and mirrors. This is how we create a reality. I'm sitting with Dr. John DeMartini this afternoon, and we're doing a podcast with him, and we're going to be talking about exactly this topic. How we now know that we are tangling with the universe. This thing is only happening because you're thinking. And how it happens is based on how you're thinking, and how you're thinking is based on how you're feeling. So your emotions must be congruent with your dreams and aspirations. Your emotions, you must get that you are worthy, you are enough. To build your self-worth, or to build your net worth, you must build your self-worth.
How many people do you know that have like so much money coming in? I mean, you look at the young footballers nowadays, they've got so much money coming in, but the money doesn't equal self-worth for them.
Yeah.
The money just disappears because they don't have, their emotion isn't aligned with what the exterior world is showing them. So they will squander what's going on out here so that they can feel aligned again.
So they will squander it down to an emotional level. It's like, if I say to you, look, what if I came along and I gave you $10 million? What would you do? Now, for some of you, you think, oh, my life wouldn't change. And that's just a delusion, because that's just not true. And because your life would have to change, you'd have to start listening, you'd have to have the proper bankers around you, you'd have to have the correct people around you to manage the money. Trust me, your life would change. So I come along, I give you $10 million. If your emotional stability is not congruent with that $10 million, you will sabotage the $10 million and sabotage it by giving it away. You'll attract sharks, they'll chomp chunks out of you, and you will lose all your money back down to a level that you're able to operate at. So let's say that operating level is $100,000. Within 5 years, you'll be back at $100,000 again. Why? Because your emotional stability is not congruent with your dreams and aspirations. So I think it's really important that you understand this particular point, because this is where you're going to build your business from. If you want to build your business, you're at maybe midpoint now. If you want to reach for the stars, you need to know how to bust through that glass ceiling. You need to know how to get through it. To get through that glass ceiling, you must transform from the inside out. To transform from the inside out, you must create congruency between your internal self and your external world and your external dreams and aspirations. So how do we do this? I'm going to give you some tips now, because I know Selena's going to start telling me I'm out of time in a minute. Are you guys learning? Can I ask, are you guys learning something?
Yes.
I think that was like 6. Okay, I hope I'm not cooking you too much. Am I frying your brain too much?
No. So they all look a bit dazed, but it's okay.
Okay, cool. As long as they don't look like they found a poo in their handbag, I'm fine. That's the normal. Okay, so let's talk about how we do this. And understand, guys, I'm only scratching the surface now. When we come to New Zealand, I'm going to spend 2 days with you guys and with your teams. And I promise you, I'm going to kick your asses and I'm going to show you how to actually build, like we did with most of your top-end people there, how to build an enormous business. But it starts with this. I'm going to give you a couple of small tips, right? It starts with this. To build your net worth, you must start with your self-worth. The reason people build high net worths and then they sabotage it is because their self-worth was not matching the net worth that was coming in. So if you want to avoid this fluctuating, this oscillating in TikTok from having money to not having money, from rich to poor, if you want to stop that, here is how you start. The first thing is that every night before you go to bed, you sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and you write down 20 values that you bring to life, as if you're having a conversation with your God, as if you're having a conversation with Jesus, whoever it is for you, and you tell him why it's okay for you to have it. But you can't fake that stuff. If you pick a word like, I'm allowed to have this because I have integrity, but you must go to a time, a space, and a location and see it in your mind where you have exercised integrity. Otherwise, what you wrote down on the piece of paper is BS. It doesn't mean anything. Unless it is located within your life and you can tell life with certainty, presence, and love. Ah, right, I get what he's saying now. With certainty, presence, and love. Where you totally own that characteristic and trait inside of you. And that when you go into the world, you are going to operate out of integrity with certainty, presence, and love, because you know you have it. You cannot fake integrity. You cannot fake love. You cannot fake empathy. Now, let me say something else to you. In your lives and as you build this organization, are you going to need to be tough? Yes. If tough is a negative trait to you, it doesn't matter. The universe wants to know that you have what it takes to be able to handle what it gives you. Because you're going to need to be tough on some of your people, as much as you're going to need to be empathetic. There's going to be times where you're going to have to be hard on them. You're going to have to do this.
Your self-worth is your ability to love yourself as a whole.
Every bit of you.
So if your net worth is dependent on your self-worth, you can't love yourself in a half in order to get the net worth. You have to love yourself as a whole. So the ways to do that, as just like Mitch said, you've got to articulate to the universe what you bring to the table. And you've got to give it a time, a space, and a location. You can't just say, I have integrity, but not be able to show where you demonstrated integrity.
Yeah, you can't look in the mirror and go,
I'm loving.
I have integrity. Because the universe goes, sorry.
You've got to know, and you've got to be able to articulate to anyone who was to come and ask you, this is where I've demonstrated integrity. So that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two.
Don't give them a second one.
You're going to give them a second one. Number two, you've got to understand those things that you, and my recommendation with this is actually to probably look at your teams. Your teams are a reflection of what's going on for you. So if you're stuck with your team at the moment because you feel that they're not moving forward for a particular reason, or you're seeing some traits coming up in them that you're not able to understand, like perhaps they're being a fraud, or perhaps they're being too controlling, or perhaps they're being tough, and you're not okay with that, you've got to get where that quality and trait is in you, and why that's so important for you to own that to a great degree. Because if you can't own that, your team are trying to show you, hey, it's okay for you to be this. Yeah. You can't get ahead unless you're this. They're trying to reflect back to you what it is that you need to see next. So whatever you see is going on around you as a problem, it's actually your next opportunity for growth.
So watch, well, listen to what you said there. Whatever the team reflects back to you. So this is why now you're building a team. You're building a neural net. It's like a network. And as you build this network, the purpose of a network is to be able to, as the leader, to be able to show them that you're able to deal with the part of themselves that they're not okay with. The world around you reflects back the prospect of inspiration inside of you. So the world around you reflects back the next level of inspiration inside of you. So when a person is behaving a certain way, you don't go in and bag them or give them a kicking unless you know that you have done the same thing and you've earned the right to be able to say, hey, look, I get that you're trying to lead your people this way, or you're trying to build your teams this way, but there's another way. And there's another way because I tried that myself. But here's what I learned about myself. Here's who I became. So as you're doing this, again, you're building your self-worth. It's key. Guys, it's key. You must build your self-worth. I'll give you a great example of Shani Peach. She loves me talking about this stuff, and she's a great example of Shani. Shani Peach, when she came to see us, she didn't like me because she didn't like what I was saying. Because she realized that I was telling the truth. That in order for her to be able to get ahead, she was going to have to love herself. Not just on the outside. You see Shani Peach on the outside. She is stunningly beautiful. But Shani, I had to get Shani to love herself on the inside. And I remember she fought me for years. She was earning, like at one point she said, Mitch, I'm earning $30 a week. I'm putting $2 into my car to drive to work. And this is a very intelligent woman. This is a very switched on, light emanating human being. And she fought. I said, you're going to fight me, Shani, but you have to understand, I give a damn. All I want you to do is emanate and shine from the inside. I said, what's your biggest issue? She said, I'm earning $30 a week and putting $2 into my car to earn petrol. I'm broke. And I said, okay. She said, I'm in $14,000 debt. I'm like, okay, that's fine. When Shani, I sat down with her at one point and I said, Shani, are you ready to love yourself? And she got it. She realized I'm totally ready to love myself. I said, okay. And then I had to take her through the process. I had to take her through the equilibration process. I had to balance her left and right lobes of her brain, awaken the immortal nature inside of her. And she had this, and then she laughed and cried simultaneously, held my hands and went, whoa. And I'm like, right, you got it? And she's like, I got it. The next time I met her, she sat down and she goes, oh my God, I've got a terrible problem. I said, what's your problem? She said, Mitch, I'm earning $14,000 a month and I don't know what to do with it. Now that's a different problem. Would you agree? Yeah. You're all going to have problems in your life, guys. The question is the quality of your problem. But the quality of your problem is determining the quality of person that you are. It's how you handle your problems that determines the leader that you are. It's how you're able to take accountability and responsibility for what is going on outside of you. Your children mirror back to you your unfinished business, the little shits. You're going to find the same thing in your life. Your team are going to mirror back to you your unfinished business. So lead by dealing from within, getting congruent, building your internal self-worth, and watching your net worth catch up. You cannot build your net worth without building your self-worth.
I'd love for you guys to see your teams as your opportunity, as little parts of yourself, and as your opportunity to grow even greater inside of yourself. Everything that you see in them is just a reflection of you. As soon as you can understand that, and as soon as you understand that I'm not trying to fix them, I'm not trying to help them, I'm looking at a way to help myself deal with this. As soon as you do that, then that's the example of a true leader.
Yeah.
Because someone who leads a team leads themselves, leads from within. So everything that is going on with your teams is everything that you need, exactly what you need to emanate and shine. And I want you to think about one person in your team who you just know is just switched on, there, connected, got it, and is just flying. That's a part of you. That's you demonstrated in another person. I want you to think about a person in your team that you find it hard to connect with, hard to communicate with, that you struggle to resonate with at times. That's another part of you. That's another opportunity for you to move and for you to shine and for you to look at that side of yourself. Because when you can own that, because so many of us want to stand there and say, yes, I'm amazing, I've achieved this, I've done this. But when you can own that this other part of you is there, that is actually what's going to get you to become a greater leader than just owning the part you want to see in the world. We have the public parts of ourselves that we want to own and the private parts of ourselves that we want to disown. Self-love and self-worth is where you love all parts of yourself, the parts you show to the world and the parts that you don't.
So I hope that we've helped you there, guys. I can continue on if you want. It's up to you guys. It's up to you, Celine.
Do we want them to continue?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular you'd like us to share, Celine?
Has anybody got any questions on what Mitch Mills have already spoken about?
I do.
Linda does. Go for it, Linda.
Always has a question for us.
I would love some practical examples of loving the part that's harder to love.
Yeah.
And the conditioning has kind of taught us that's bad. I know that I'm stubborn. I know that I'm, not teachable in this part and not.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't see the benefits or the
Yeah, and can I just say, one of the things is that people want to say, people want to say that, yes, we do love ourselves, or it's easy to love people. But the truth about it is, it's easy to love the parts we love about ourselves in people. And true love is when you can love the parts that are hardest to love.
Yeah. True
love is when you can love the parts that are hardest to love.
So
the way that
love is found in, the deepest of love is found in the places where you're adamant it doesn't exist. So get what I said there. The deepest of love is found in the places where you're adamant it doesn't exist. So let's say it starts with, it's just a simple technique. You start with something that you don't like about yourself.
So let's give it a word. Let's say stubborn. Let's say you don't like that you're stubborn, right? Stubborn. I am stubborn and I'm okay with that. Just saying. Maybe it's something you don't like about yourself.
Maybe it's something you don't like about yourself.
So let's say stubborn. And I do say that because it is a part of me. I am stubborn. So the first thing that you've got to notice, and the first step is actually recognizing it, guys, because one of the things that we want to do is that we almost don't want to give it a label, or we don't want to notice it. Yeah. So sometimes the first thing is to notice it. The way that you notice it is if you're noticing other people being that. Because if you start to recognize, oh, he's controlling, she's controlling, he's stubborn, she's stubborn. If you start to notice it out there, there's a 100% chance that that's actually you, and that's a part of you that you haven't quite got how it's serving you. So the next thing you want to do...
Can I just give an example?
Yeah, of course.
I'll just give an example, right? Let's say you're standing in a room, team, right? And you've got a heap of people there, yeah? You walk out on stage and you're about to do your pitch. And one of the things I keep pushing Linda and I keep pushing Celine to do is I want to talk to you guys about pitching and closing stuff, but they won't let me do it. So you guys got to pressurize them to get me to talk to them about pitching and closing. If you master it, it's great. But it's getting back on track again. So let's say you walk on stage and you get on stage and you're like, somebody in the audience knows you from when you were younger. And they go, hey mate, I know you. You're a fraud. you're a fraud. You took money from me and you never delivered. And you stand there and go, oh, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. No. That was someone else. You must be No, mate. I know you. You're a fraud. You don't eat properly. I've seen you in the restaurant. I've watched you eat hamburgers. I know that you're lying. If you stand and go, no, you must be mistaking me for somebody else. Watch. You're gone. Forget about it. You are good night. You're old news. It's over. But if you stand there and go, okay, so what have I done? I've been a fraud, have I? Okay, just give me a moment. Yep. I can tell you a time when I've been a fraud. You're absolutely right. Tell me, what else have I done? I've lied? Yep. Hold on. Yep. I can get that I've lied. Now what you're doing is you're owning every part of you. The objective of leadership is to own every trait and characteristic that you've ever displayed in your life on a t-shirt, a billboard, and be powerful enough to walk into any audience owning the liar, the robber, the killer, whatever it is, owning every single part of yourself. That is what true leadership is. True leadership knows, look, what gets me through life is my intention. Sure, I get that I've done things in my life. I get who I am, but I know who I am as a result of what has gone on. No one is without mistakes. So picking a part of you that you don't like about yourself is the start.
So the thing is that the things that you like about yourself, the reason you like them is because you perceive other people will like them about you, and also because you think that they benefit other people and they benefit you. So let's say you love that you're loving or that you're giving. And the reason you love that about yourself is because you think, well, that helps other people. That gives them something. What you're denying is where it doesn't give them something at times, right? Because imagine if you were just to give all the time to your kids. They'd end up being spoiled. They'd end up not learning to go and learn about that for themselves.
They'd never grow, they'd never move, they'd never evolve. When you over-support a human being, they become codependent.
Yeah, so and imagine that you never ever got cross with your kids and you were always loving and connected and hugging them. They would never go and find love in other places and with other people. You know, if mum's, hugging them all the time, they'd never go to dad for anything. Does that make sense? So when we like something about ourselves, we're denying the part of it that is of a disservice to other people. The opposite is true when we don't like a part of ourselves. What's very evident to us is that stubbornness is just, it creates a negative feeling in other people or in ourselves. So what you've got to do is you've got to find where the other side is. And to do that, you've got to see how it's of benefit and how it's of service to you and others. So let's say stubbornness is the trait that you're looking at, and you're realizing that you're actually quite stubborn. You've got to look at how does that serve you? How does that serve the people around you?
But there's a way to look at that. You have to be specific. The key in that is you've got to go to a time when you've been stubborn.
100%.
In terms of time, space, and location.
There's no point in generalizing this stuff because it just ends up general.
No, you won't get it.
And then you won't get it. So you have to go to a specific time. Think of a time that really stands out to you that you were stubborn or controlling or arrogant or rude. And I want you to think about look outside of what you see just in that little zone and think outside of the square there and look at what was happening around and ask yourself, how was that of service to me and how was that of service to others? When you can do that, that's when you start to own that it's okay to have those traits.
Now,
can I give you another example?
Can I just say something there?
Yeah.
In terms of doing that, what's vitally important and what will be a sign that you're congruent is that when you start to see how being stubborn was of service specifically in a time and a space and a location, a tear will form in your eye and it'll roll down the side of your cheek. So a tear is a feedback system letting your brain know that your heart is in a state of alignment. So a tear is a feedback system letting you know that you're conscious. I see it. Oh my God. Now, are you going to need to be stubborn in your life? Of course you are. If you try to disown that part of yourself, you're not congruent. You're full of shit. So you've got to be able to own every single part of yourself.
Yeah. So what happens is you'll notice that there's times where you're just trying to be nice and you just, you're trying to be helpful for other people and you're trying to be nice all the time. And then all of a sudden something will happen and you start feeling nasty inside of your mind. Even if you're not doing it outside, it's actually there. So whatever you're trying to hold back on, it actually comes up somewhere anyway, because as human beings, we can't just be one side. So you've got to think about it. And I think the best analogy that we use is that imagine you've got a kid, right? And your kid is going through something. There are times where you're going to need to be, let's say somebody's hurting your kid. Would you agree that you would stand up to that person? You would be stubborn, you might be arrogant, you might be rude, but in that moment, that's important and necessary in order for you to do your job and to be the best example that you can be.
Because your intention is to take care of your child.
Your intention is to take care of the child. So not only do you have to become aware of that trait, you've got to figure out how it's of service to you and others, but you also have to understand your intention.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that tomorrow.
We'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow as well. But if you're having to be tough with one of your team or a new person that's coming along, let's say they're really not taking care of their health, would you agree that in order to maybe snap them out of it, you might need to be tough, or you might need to shock them somehow and be rude in some respect in order for them to go, oh my God, I never thought about it like that. The truth is that when you have clear intention, that's when you can be all of who you are.
So listen to what we mean here. Take no credit, take no blame, keep your focus on the aim.
Very important.
Take no credit, take no blame, keep your focus on the aim.
If your aim is here, your aim is to transform the world. Your aim is to transform the health of the people in your team and their people as well. Then take no credit, take no blame, keep the focus on the aim. It doesn't matter whether you have to be kind or rude, smart or stupid, intelligent, dumb, whatever it needs. That's how you go through, because your aim and your purpose is clear and is set.
And we say it to you, just be yourself. That means every single part of you. Love every single part of you. So we've given you some good tips there. Go to a trait and characteristic you don't like about yourself. Own where you've done it. So own totally where you've done it. Be specific about it. Who saw you doing it? And then ask yourself, how is it a benefit to you and how has it been a benefit to others? So that you get that it's okay for you to be tough.
And then what's your intention?
Cool.
Yeah. Hope that was a long answer to your question, Linda.
Yeah. It's good.
Thank you.
Awesome. Absolutely fantastic. Well, we can't wait to see what you're actually going to share with us tomorrow.
Everything you just said now.
Pretty much going to say it word for word.
We're just going to say the whole lot over again.
When I just
play this.
I was going to say we'll just play this tomorrorow. No. We know that there's so much more in there to be able to share with us. But thank you so much for taking time out of your Friday to share with us. And again tomorrow. We really, really appreciate it. Can we give a great big hand, guys?
Thanks, guys. Thanks for